All right. Good evening, everyone. So we're here with March 20th, and it's possibly our final zoning recodification committee meeting. We really just want to make sure that everything is happy and submitted, and what are the final punch list items we need as far as submitting a final draft for the planning board to consider for their final warrant at Springtown meeting. Um, so with that, Judy, I know that you're telecommuting with this. Do you have any introduction, or do we want to kick it straight to if anyone has input?
I think you should go ahead and get input from people at this point. I don't want to dominate this discussion. I think I'm really available now to help answer questions or respond to comments more than leading the discussion per se. But I'm happy to do whatever you need me to do.
Okay, great. So I guess I'll ask, how are you guys doing? Are you working on any reviews? Did you find anything? What does it look like for each of your individual reviews? And I will start with Blake because I know he was kind of informally talking about it earlier.
Yes. So two questions, two levels of questions. I did get responses back for a number of prior comments that I had submitted, um, and some have been taken care of. Some, weren't able to fully understand what I was asking, etc. But one of the most recent comments that I did provide was dealing with an issue of um, average versus averaged ED, and that was supposed to be taken care of, but it was not addressed in the third reading document, and so maybe it'll be in the next version. So I'll have to go and take a look at whatever the latest version of the document is to make sure that these comments are addressed or whatever. But um, so I have some lingering things, and so I don't mind this being the last minute meeting, but because I have the privilege of being able to have these discussed at the planning board meeting in April when we take a look at these. But still there's some things that may need to be edited even at that juncture, and so the question becomes who owns it at that point, who's going to take care of these items, and if we have something that requires discussion, um, how do we move forward? Other than this is going to be a planning board document, and so the planning board, I think, can do that. But um, otherwise, and not to steal your thunder,
Please.
Director, but there are a number of format issues that still need to be taken care of, making sure that the page numbering is right, the table of contents matches, that the placeholders for figures, forms, and tables are all filled out, et cetera. And again, all that's going to take um, some time to make sure that they're there and that nothing's happened. But by and large, there are a number of changes. There are a few items which I have found, and some of them have notes associated with them where um, the team has admitted that weren't sure exactly what this meant. We think we have the spirit of what was there covered, and I'm still trying to unravel, what was said before, what we've changed it to, and has the meaning changed significantly or in a point that could be a source of litigation, etc. We then have about 800 commas that either have been added or deleted, and sadly, much litigation has been done over, comment placement or comment omission, and I'm not sure our legal counsel is going to, do a page by page look to see whether an addition of a comma or three or the deletion is going to um, change the force and function of our bylaw. But sadly, we all know of stories where there has been huge litigation over, the added or deleted comma. Anyway, so in general, I do think that we're still at, 80 to 90% complete. I think that, my hope is that we'll not have to go and put out a new version of this to fix unintentionally introduced errors. And I shared this before. And it's not due to a lack of professionalism by this committee or by our reviewing team, et cetera. It's just that, this type of thing happens often in an administrative exercise, which is what this really is. And that's I'll pause there.
Great. Ed, how about you?
So clearly Blake has more time to go over a lot of the stuff than I do, but what I will say is it looks like, just looking at the notes, the footnote document that we talked about at the last planning board meeting, we've been working with for several of these meetings. It looks like they're all either discussed and resolved or approved or not approved. But there is one that doesn't have a notation at all, and that's number 39. The Attorney General may disapprove this requirement. I'm not sure where that stands. I mean, there's a possibility the Attorney General is going to deny the whole thing, disapprove the whole thing, but that's not likely. So I'm not sure exactly what that refers to.
I can double check that clause really quick. I do remember that it's an existing rule that,
Yep.
part of what Judy's been tasked with doing is making sure that we're state compliant. So without changing policy, she's really not sure if the AG is going to fly with that clause, but I'm pulling it up now to see what particular clause that
Yeah,
was. I think
the
you guys
title
have
is
talked about
elderly-
it.
Deed restrictions is that, and then
Yes.
I think the key issue is the applicant responsible for the cost of the review, but I don't remember the dialogue associated with that comment.
Yeah, it's labeled elderly housing district deed restrictions. 11.5.e, if that helps.
Yep. So yeah, maybe we haven't talked about that one yet. That's why it's not resolved. I think when we've talked about everything else, we've been
Kat?
very, go ahead.
I believe that has to do either with bedroom restrictions or the age of all the occupants in the development.
Okay.
I mean, I'm driving, so I can't open it up, but as
No,
I
you're fine.
recall,
I'm
I
scrolling.
think that was part of the issue.
That's an impressive recollection. Very, very impressive.
I was
to be
just thinking the same thing.
No AIDS and pulling that out of your hat. Anyway.
Oh, God. Anyway, I think that, I'm sorry, Blake. I mean, I wish I was clearer on this, but I think it had something to do with one or both of those issues.
So it's actually a very short section. It does say deed restrictions requiring that all residents, except for spouses or caregivers, have reached the age of 55 shall be
Okay.
placed on the entire site and referenced in
Yes.
all leases as applicable.
Okay, so this is what has come up in other communities. The Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995 provides for deed restricted, age restricted developments if at least 80% of the households are headed by someone who is 55 or older. It does not authorize an absolute ban on the ages of all other household members. And so this has come up in some other reviews, and I was trying to flag for you, the Attorney General's office may have an issue with this. I'm not going to speak for the AG. I'm just going to say there's a fair housing question here, and you probably will get a comment on it, at least a note of caution, if not a disapproval.
Okay.
And I think where this committee has always kind of gone when this question is coming up is, do we change our policy to meet these other state laws that we assume are going to be a kickback? Is put it through for now because you guys aren't trying to change policy and let the AG say no, which isn't the most efficient. We know we're going to have to come back and do more changes, assuming that the AG flags it, but it
Right.
kind of
And
keeps it
it's a
organized
policy.
for us.
Right. It's really a decision for you folks to make. I just wanted to flag it for you because it could be an issue.
Okay.
I mean, I think it will be an issue.
Except that it's passed at least once, right, as written.
But that doesn't
In the
matter.
70s.
You'll find stuff. Yeah, you'll find stuff in zoning that a previous municipal law unit director approved. And then in the meantime, there's been case law or rethinking of, the state anti-discrimination law or whatever, and it will cause a change in the way these things are viewed. So that's why I'm bringing this up.
Okay.
You can't necessarily rely on a decision that was made even 15 years ago.
That's fair. Other than that, I think we've got a decent document to go forward with. So other than that, I'm fine.
Motion to adjourn?
No. Hold on, let me
Not
type. I
yet.
have more. But
I'll
Dick, how have
second
you
it.
been?
All right, I had my Wheaties this morning.
You talking to me, Kat?
Yes, have you been looking at anything or
Yeah,
following the emails?
I'm not getting my picture on the screen, so I'm kind of lost if I didn't know if I was in, you know?
So,
Um,
well, let me send you one more thing. Look on your screen for a pop-up, okay?
all
And
right.
then accept the invitation. There we go. Yeah, when I send invitations for people to be a panelist, you have to click yes within 30 seconds or it goes away. There we go. Now we can see you.
Okay. Jeez. How you doing? All right.
Well,
I had a tough time getting on because didn't have the password. Trying to keep it a secret or something, Kat? Oh, there's Mark. All right, and I'm glad he just popped in, I believe. But the only thing that, I scanned through the document and some people are gonna drive this either way or a different way. But, the only thing that jumped out on me was you had, let me see, you had building inspector in there. And I think Bill Rick is using inspector of buildings, but the state uses an overall building official, which means in the state building code, which means building commissioner / inspector of buildings or local inspector. So that would cover everybody in the office. I don't know if they want to change it. So it meets, because in one point it says, I think it's the definition of building official where it says, where it says building inspector as per the state building code. Well, the state building code doesn't have a building inspector per se. They don't have that title. So I don't know what the consensus is, what you want to do. Mark, you in? I see him on here. There he
I'm
is.
here. I just got on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. Had a little trouble getting on.
I don't know if you heard my,
Yeah, I think you're talking about actually my title and my guy's title.
right.
I think it's fine. I think what you said, building official.
Yeah, because I think the state uses it kind of as a blanket,
Yeah.
from commissioner to local and stuff. So we should change that then to building official.
Yeah, I mean, as it is, the only concern I have with that is ultimately I'm responsible for the guys that work under me. So if I delegate some of it to them, but can that be interpreted as, now if I don't like the answer from one building inspector, can I go to the other building inspector? Who's ultimately responsible for the zoning? Unfortunately, it's me.
It's you, right? So I
But
mean, even
I'm
if
not that particular about it, whatever you guys think.
I just want it to all match up,
Yep.
Uh, whatever you change,
Building official is a blanket term that the state uses.
right? But they use the term building inspector, and that's no place, That's
Right.
just
It's either local or,
yeah, a commissioner or inspector of buildings.
right.
So does this work, or do we need to add the phrase building official somewhere into the definitions?
No, I think it works as long as it's consistent throughout the document. So if we're saying inspector of buildings, let's just make sure that it says that everywhere.
Yeah, see, it doesn't. It says building inspector.
So I need to do a check for that and a search and replace to make sure the title is consistent.
Or in
Yeah.
the definitions, allow it to be either way.
So
So-
I just need you guys to tell me what you want me to make it and I will make it.
There's
I-
4 references to building inspector.
Yep.
8 references to building commissioner. So that's 12 places you'd have to change right off the bat.
That is totally fine. I can do that. That's my
Mark.
error, so I'll fix it.
Mark, what's your favorite title?
Commissar.
Tired. I don't really have a preference as long as it's consistent.
Why don't we
So-
say inspector of buildings, Mark, because you raise a valid point about
Yeah.
people shopping for an answer.
Perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do.
Inspector of buildings.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think that's Mark's actual title.
it is, and it's my fault that it's not consistent, so I will fix it.
All right, that's an
Okay.
official action item for our final draft is to keyword search for any reference to building commissioner titles and to reword them all as inspector of buildings.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then in an email I sent yesterday, just to kind of heads up what I was looking at, I mentioned in a previous email that we had gotten a legal team to also give us a review. So this really came from them. But in our existing zoning bylaw, it was adopted as a red line. And so let's say we take out the word building and we substitute in the word structure. The word building would show up in red text with a strike through, and then the word structure would be added in red text afterwards. But then when we copied and pasted and imported it into this new draft, now the word building and structure both show up. So there's a few instances where that's happening. So we just need, it's not even a keyword search, it's a word color search, just to make sure that we look at every single time it was redlined in the old document, make sure we're not carrying over any of that previously deleted text. Any issues with us going through that and doing that change? Or do you guys bless us to do that change? Is that a better? Always asking the affirmative, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Dick. All right. Font color, red lines. Don't use previously deleted. All right, so another one that they flagged was all of the section references, and Blake has been looking at some of them too. I have just started doing a keyword search for the word section, and there's about 200 of them in this document. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking at the old book and the new book side by side, and I'm saying, all right, this clause says the purpose of section 8 is to follow section 9. Well, what is it referring to when it's saying section 8, and was that the right section it should be saying? So I'm looking at the old document, finding the same clause, seeing what it was referencing, finding where that section is now in the old and then over in the new. And then is that new section number really what we're saying in that clause? So there's 6 different spots I'm looking at between these 2 books for every single keyword search, which again, there's close to 200 of them. So it is too long to put into a punch list memo, but I think it's obvious enough that you guys are good with us doing that as well. And I can show a couple of examples from what I found already if
So-
I'm just
It's really helpful to have another set of eyes on this, Kat.
Okay.
I will tell you that I tried to do the very same thing, but
Yep.
I'll also tell you that after a while, when you have lived, eaten, slept, and breathed a document, you don't see it anymore. So bless you
Absolutely.
all for finding any kinds of inconsistencies like this. This is really what it's like when you get down to this point. So everyone's help is just much appreciated.
The sections. All right. And then the fourth item that I want to make sure you guys are okay blessing is making it a clean document. Because just like we said with the red lines, it should not be a working document that actually gets adopted. The final warrant should be the clean, ready to go adopted version. So this final warrant is going to remove the footnotes. That was part of the working draft, not the final draft. So removing the footnotes, adding a cover page. Currently, the header says zoning recodification third draft, but it needs to say Town of Billerica zoning bylaw. And like Blake mentioned before, we either need to add those figures, or if we don't have figures ready to be added, it might be easier to just take out that keyword reference to saying, hey, here's some illustrations that we're going to show what a setback means or what the lot frontage is. And maybe we just create a helpful tool that's a separate document, not inside the bylaw. It's either insert or delete the reference. So I guess that was kind of a question within a question. So first, how do you guys feel about the figures? Because we have not seen them. I think it might be easier to just remove the references and just leave it as the clauses themselves at this point. Or would
Kat, do they
you?
exist? Do the figures even exist? I'm not sure. Do you
So
have, I don't have your current bylaw open because I'm flying up Route 128, but I don't know that the figures exist.
I thought you were creating them.
Well, some of them I think were just going to be copied over from the
From
original
existing?
bylaw. So
Okay,
That's
the
my
lot
question,
circle,
like,
for example,
perfect.
and the three examples of compliance and non-compliance.
yeah.
Those my expectation, unexpressed but now expressed, is that those, will just be ported over. We just have not, that has not been done yet,
Perfect.
Okay.
in this
That's
iteration.
easy. Okay. If they exist and we're just importing them over, then that's a lot easier for you guys to bless us doing than saying, hey, let us just draw pictures that you'll never see. So that's a lot better. Give me 1 second.
Okay, here.
All right, so here is this is the current bylaw. Oh, heavens no. It's in section 7, right?
I think so. Those would probably be in what is your existing section 7.
Well, we're 2/3 of the way through the document, so we're almost out of section 5 now.
Good
All
job.
right, there's the table. So now we have the 2 specials. And then site plans. And now we're at 7. All right, so we do have lot area, lot frontage. We have these figures already. Mark, do you have any issues with the usability of these figures?
I think originally I said we should update them, and I could probably get that together. If there's still time, I can, jump on that I don't have an issue with the way they are, but
Okay.
I figured this might be an opportunity to clean them a little bit. and
Okay.
Make them a
Do
little more
you,
understandable.
do you want to have cleaner ones created by yourself by April 1st? Is that feasible?
It sounds feasible, but what's
Okay.
been going on lately has been just kind of had me distracted for everything, but I'll commit to that.
Amen. So as far as the committee goes, let's plan to insert the existing figures, but acknowledge that the planning board might like to adopt Mark's updated figures instead.
Sounds good.
So they would be replacements, but not substantive changes.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is excluding the table of uses table, of course, which was updated.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, we're talking just the graphics here, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can be made a little cleaner and more understandable.
Yeah, I do too.
Great.
So, we can create those, Judy, and get those to you in a PDF format. Is that okay?
PDF is totally fine.
All right. April 1st it is.
Each image
Thank
is a
you.
PDF or all the images are in one PDF?
I could probably do it both ways in case you have to move them around.
Yeah, but we can also cut them out. I mean, if you send me a PDF, even if it has all 3 images or whatever the number is, we
Yeah,
can always splice that PDF into separate files and, we can work that magic on our end.
okay.
Do whatever's easier for you, Mark. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, once it's created, it's just a matter of saving it a couple times.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
All right, insert existing figures, or Mark may have updated ones by April 1st. Fantastic. All right, so that was the question within the question. The rest of that was as far as making it a clean final document, a cover page, removing the footers, the headers. I think our Appendix A and B don't have titles yet, things like that. Is there any issue with us taking that on after this meeting?
I don't think so.
Great. All right. Those were all of my comments for final. Jane, did you have anything else? I know we kind of worked a lot on it together, so.
No, I think that is pretty much everything. At some, yeah, I mean, I can also like go through and look for any other formatting things if we still need like those little things like punctuation things. I can go back and
Do you want to double check all those commas that Blake mentioned?
sure. I
Awesome.
love commas.
Should we take a poll who believes in the Oxford comma or not?
Well, our style settings in our documents are Oxford comma, but I think part of what happens in your existing zoning, again, as things were copied over, is you have some awkwardly placed commas.
Yeah.
So I think anybody reading a whole sentence with an awkwardly placed comma would probably see the problem. I totally respect what Blake said earlier about, litigation going on because of commas, but I think in the case of your existing zoning, you have some that are just genuinely awkwardly placed. It's like a grammatical thing more than
Yep.
anything else. So,
So I think,
go ahead.
Jane, if you find anything that looks like it might be different than what the original one is, then take it up with Mark to make sure that he can enforce the same way he has been.
Right.
Or how to edit those commas one last bit to make sure he can enforce it the same way as before.
Sure.
Right.
And
Mark,
maybe-
does that work?
Yeah, I get that.
Yep.
And Blake, if there's anything specific that you already know that you want us to look at, send me an email so that I can like definitely like not miss those because it's 140 pages. So
Right. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
understand.
like the averaged. I don't remember where that clause was, so, but
I don't
definitely
either,
want to
but
look
I'll
at that.
find it.
So anyway, just another example of the missing graphic or figure.
Yep.
Would be the parking requirements. We have the angle and depth and width, and then the two graphics, and that could be improved undoubtedly, is missing. So anyway, just
Yeah, we can replace that with like a standard engineering detail.
Okay.
to
And
make
here's
it
our
cleaner.
existing parking
that's existing,
figures.
right? And it just says insert graphic on the on our current one, so yeah, and that's the type of thing we're referring to. Sorry, I just thought I might as well
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, Mark, what I noticed missing is 90-degree parking.
Correct. And I mean, we should also show the requirements for handicap parking.
Ooh.
Nice improvement.
So you probably have 3 new graphics, the 90-degree parking, the typical accessible space, and then a van accessible space.
Does our code reference any of that, or is it just a chance to illustrate something from somewhere else?
So the handicapped accessible ones that will just pull the graphic right out of the Architectural Access Board regulations.
Okay. Just
And
kind of as a side note, but it doesn't change our
Yeah, I mean,
policies.
just the informational for
Yep.
people looking at it, that rather than have to go find another book or a code. And then I'll get typical handicap parking details from the engineering department. You know,
Okay.
maybe show
And-
vehicles in the space and dress it up a little bit.
Yeah. Can you make sure you cite the code you're pulling it from? Like, it's this
Yeah.
code published on effective that date is when this came from.
Yeah, that would really only be for the accessible spots.
Yep.
And then the other ones are just engineering standards.
Great. And then one other formatting thing I forgot to mention, when everything is done, including the footnotes out, doing one final scroll through to make sure all the page numbers and the section breaks are good, because once we've removed those footnotes, all the text is going to shift around a little bit because there's more white space to be used. So definitely one final scroll through, just looking for page numbers and section breaks, which I don't think you guys are going to have a problem with, but that could be one other area where we see changes.
If I could, there were a couple minor inconsistencies in the third reading version. I think we're trying to, and I'm trying to find an example, and I'm not coming across it, but there were several of them where I think we let's see, where we call out the planning board and or we remove planning board and include the special permit granting authority. But there's some instances where we've not been consistent in that use, so we should probably take a look for that.
As far as we say planning board too much instead of the SPGA, or vice versa?
We say, yeah, we mostly say the planning board, instead of in the old version, we used to say the special permit granting authority.
Okay.
And I understand that the ZBA also can do that on certain instances, but anyway, but we have some things where we still say SPGA when the references for the planning board.
Perfect. And I know for a couple of the overlay zones where it very specifically says this is the planning board will be SPGA here, like the mixed use overlay. So it might be doing that on purpose, but we'll definitely add a keyword search for planning board to verify when should it be more generic.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so any other new items? Then I'm gonna share my notes really quick. I think. Every time I do something, it changes what I'm looking at. Can you see my Word document?
Yep.
Perfect. Is it legible?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So these 9 items are what I have. So a keyword search, all building commissioner titles to reword as inspector of buildings. Font color red lines, don't use any previously deleted wording. A keyword search for the word sections. Insert existing figures. Mark may have updated ones by April 1st. Do the clean copy for headers, footers, remove the footnotes. I guess footnotes are the footers. Jane will review any commas, check with Mark on enforceability of anything she finds. Mark is going to create more parking figures too. Do one more search for page numbers and section breaks, and then do a keyword search for planning board in case it should be the more generic SPGA. Did I miss anything? Oh, and then do have the comment earlier, the average versus averaged. So let's add that as an item.
Yeah, so somebody needs to do a clean scrub of the definitions. I know that there are a number of definitions that I thought were going to be consolidated into the definitions section, and they weren't in the new version. I thought maybe they would be elsewhere, but it is a 160-page document. So, I I'll identify what ones I can find as I continue my my scrub, but who's going to do a look at the definitions to make sure we've got everything covered?
As far as what, like what's not being consolidated that should, or what are we missing?
I
Yes.
thought we were gonna proceed with any definitions that was scattered throughout the bylaw were all gonna be located in one section. So I
Yeah.
know like, I believe the solar section, has its definitions.
Right, have all been moved into the definition section or should have been.
Yeah. So I think we should probably all just kind of take a glance through it and get
Mhm.
all our
Okay.
eyes on it to see if we find something.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, if you give me 3 minutes, I can give you some examples.
Let me see if I can put up a countdown clock.
So as I continue doing the keyword search for the word section, I'm inevitably reading the whole book again.
Oh, Lord.
Well, not intentionally, but it's just the word section comes up that frequently. So
course
I
it
will
does, yeah.
definitely keep my eye open for that at the same time. And then, you know, doing a keyword search for definitions is funny because you could say definition, you could say defined, but it's also possible that, you know, how else could it be worded that we use a keyword search that's going to catch it?
Yeah, you're right.
So is my time up, Mark?
Yeah, no, I haven't found the clock, so you're
40
good.
seconds
Keep
to
going.
spare.
So section 9, signs and lighting, section C,
Yeah.
in the current version, we have a whole raft of definitions, but only 2 or 3 of those have been carried forward into our definition section in 2, and they're not in the I haven't found them elsewhere, but that doesn't mean they aren't. I haven't done a computer search. I did that on my
Okay.
first, series of rounds, but now I'm just using a paper copy back and forth. Get tracking?
Yes. And then section 9. And Judy, I cannot express enough. Thank you for making the table of contents hyperlinked. So I don't have to
You're welcome.
scroll and try to find where I'm going. I just can zoom my scroll bar all the way back up to the top and click the button. I don't have to try to figure out where I'm going.
On that note, I've heard from a few people that they were hoping that the new document would be hyperlinked, so that's great.
Yes. And then maybe if we can even get it on a, what is it, E-code 360?
Yep.
They may want to change the code again. Oh, God. Just be careful.
Yep. All right, so one more share. Should I just click? What screen are you guys sharing? I don't know what I just clicked.
I can see page 10-2.
Fantastic. How about that? All right. So this is our signs and lighting section. So where did you saw definitions at?
Well, so I'm in the original version,
Okay.
Yep,
and so that's page 9-2.
yep.
And, so, billboard and home occupation are the only 2 of the 24 definitions that are carried forward in our definition section. Now some of these may not, don't necessarily need to be there, but, they just weren't carried over for some reason or another.
So Kat, we can carry those over and group them under the definition of sign, which was kind of the plan all along. And I can't
Absolutely.
explain why that wasn't done. So Blake, I appreciate your catching that because at this point, I don't think I would have seen it. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. I'm
Well,
not
it's
working
free.
for pay anymore, just for compliments like that.
I
Well,
want,
it's appreciated.
And that's why I have time for this, Ed.
I understand and I'm jealous. So give me a few years. I'll be with you.
fantastic. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot less than 12. Or, sorry, a lot less than 24. It's possible that those definitions might somehow exist elsewhere in Article 2, but yeah.
Well,
They
they
probably
might
are
Judy
be.
and
not.
I, let's make sure
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
exist
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'm just, it just is, these are items that are currently not highlighted. And so
Right.
right now I've
Right.
not found where they are in the rest of the document. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
they're not hidden somewhere that I haven't been, but I'm narrowing, what's not been
No,
covered.
they should all be in one part of the definition section. So if they're not, then they're not there. And I appreciate, like I said, I just can't see
Right.
it anymore. So that
I
belongs,
mean,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
no. Just, monument, for example, we already have a
Mhm.
different definition of a monument as a marker, but this is a monument sign. So,
Yes,
having these in a sign related definition section, which I think was the
yes.
original intent is fine. It's just, it's an unintentional omission.
Yep, okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Let me add that to our little punch list.
I do have a number of smaller, just disparate questions in there. There are some Scribner errors as well. I'll get those consolidated and sent to you.
Thank you.
All right, sign definitions, 24 terms in the old, but not 24 in the new. And Blake has assorted Scrivener errors. We'll consolidate and send over. All right. Anything else? Do you guys want to make an official vote to bless those 14 items for submission as your final draft? Or do you want to just, we're done, let's go?
Do we need a vote?
No, this is all a working committee, and ultimately, I mean, what I physically give to the planning board is going to be what they receive and what they have the discretion to adopt or not as their final warrant. So if you guys are good with that, then again, just bless it and go. If you would feel better making a vote, that's fine too.
Hello? Hello? Hi, puppy.
I'm good with it.
All right. And then Dick, one of the things I was mentioning to Blake and Ed earlier was this draft will be given to the planning board for their consideration. So they really have two different jobs at their next April hearing. One is voting to accept the final draft as their amended final warrant, that they're the ones submitting it to the town meeting. But they also have to take their own typical public hearing recommendation vote for any zoning article that goes to town meeting, whether they submit it or not. So planning board is going to have two different jobs that night. So hopefully it's streamlined, it all goes hand in hand, but if they need to get into the weeds on anything, there are two different functions, two different votes.
Who is going to do the presentation at town meeting?
So I have informally talked with the moderator and let him know that we plan to ask for a time certain for Thursday at 7 p.m. Judy, I believe you said you can make that.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Yes,
now.
yeah, good. Well, I wasn't sure if I had shut the audio off. And which, just refresh my memory, what date is it?
Thursday, May 8th.
Yeah, I did tell you, yes, I can make that
Definitely a
work.
Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, May 8th, okay.
But I think,
And-
you know, I need some direction from you folks on this, because in some communities, the last person anybody wants to hear from is the consultant from out of town. And so I need you to just think about what's going to be the most helpful to you. Is it a presentation? Is it sitting, sitting back and, you can just direct a question to me if you're not sure of the answer. I think you have to decide what's going to be the most effective way to approach your town meeting members.
Yeah.
I mean, Kat, you did a really masterful job at the last town meeting I watched. I mean, it might be, do you want me to prepare a slide deck and you give it? Or, I mean, you just tell me what you need and I'll be there. It's fine.
If I'm
You just-
talking, I'd rather make my own slides.
I get it.
Um,
I know. I totally understand. I have been there as recently as 4 hours ago.
Oh, yes. Yeah, at that last town meeting, I made the slides and then I'm like, hey, planning board chair, do you want to do this last slide? No, he did not want to. It was, I felt bad. I was like, never mind, give it back. I'm sorry. But yeah, if maybe Blake and Ed, again, you guys are from the planning board as well, so I always kind of defer to you guys. Do you have any preferences? Should it be one of you because you have this double role, or should it be whoever's planning board chair that month? Or me, or Judy, or Mark? I like Mark. Let's do Mark.
You're
Town
assuming
meeting
I'm gonna be
loves
at
when
town
Mark
meeting.
talks.
Where else would you be, Mark?
So I think it's really going to come down to, I don't know how else to put this, so I'm just probably going to say something that's not very artful. Who is
Sure.
town meeting most likely to trust?
Nobody.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Oh,
I
that
agree
Well, it
with
is a
Dick.
planning board article, and so I hadn't really thought about this. With the presentation, Kat, that you gave at the last planning board meeting, when we talked about this, I just presumed that was going to be what you're going to present.
Perfect. We'll let it
uh,
ride.
At the same time, I could understand where Ed or myself could be in the position to do that. We will have a new chair by the next meeting, and so it may be that
Yeah.
that's something that the chair would want to do. To introduce themselves to the thing. I don't know. We'll have
Perfect.
to
So
see.
you guys are going to reorg before you hear the recod anyway. Reorg, then recod. Yep, that makes sense. And then, so I think at the end of the recod, the planning board can kind of discuss what that needs to look like. Does the chair want to talk to staff later to kind of make that game plan? Does the chair want to defer to anyone else who might have been on the recod committee? Whatever. We'll figure it out after that
I
meeting.
think town meeting respects the professionals that live with this day to day. And I agree with previous comments that you gave a great presentation really at the last town meeting. So I think I
Very
would
good.
nominate you, honestly.
Well, thank you. And we'll go with that at least as a default, and then the new planning board chair can tell us where to go from there. Anything else?
Don't put it like that.
I'm going somewhere. All right, if that's it,
My only question is if we talk to the moderator about how, and this happens at Judy, I'm sure it happens at other time. Well, I'm not sure that it happens at other town meetings,
Yeah.
but it certainly does in Billerica. There may be amendments offered from the floor, which
Yes.
doesn't really could make this really confusing and very tedious. So
Yes.
typically, how have you handled that in the past in other towns?
Well, I think there's a lot of work done behind the scenes with people who might be likely to do that. To see if there are particular objections that can be accommodated before town meeting. I agree with you. It gets really messy with floor amendments. And I think, at times like that, I think you have to rely on your planning board or your town council, town attorney to say, whether something is within the scope of the article. You know, if people are going to make a substantive change or a change that really just isn't contemplated by the proposed text, I'm not sure the moderator should even be allowing that.
Yeah, I think if, and I'll have a conversation with John McKenna, he has a, you know, a thorough understanding of zoning, but I think the
Yeah.
whole context of this thing is we're not making changes. So unless your amendment is to format, it's
Yeah.
improper. And, you know, maybe we can just get him to kind of take that stance and say, we're not talking about, you know, making zoning changes. That's the next step. If you have a formatting change, you want to add a capital letter somewhere, that's different, but that's not what's in front of you now.
Exactly.
Good move,
Yeah, I think-
Mark. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it makes sense to talk to John ahead of time. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that we've all kind of strictly try to stick to, we're not making changes, and then you present it to town meeting and someone says, well, yeah, let's allow this here and let's change the zoning district.
Right.
That's not what any of us spent any time on, and just my opinion is zoning should never be amended on the floor. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
reason why we have a committee and we've spent so much time on it, that there's so many different perspectives on it. It needs discussion and it needs to go back and forth, and but I think we can address that with John McKenna and hopefully get him on board, basically not to allow it.
That works.
Great.
So moved.
Yeah, my only caution on that is there could be a couple Scrivener's errors that still leak through. The general principle, I agree completely. But it's a 160 page document or 130. As much as we'd like it to be error-free, it's not. And
Right.
so that's my only hesitation with that broad brush statement of not entertaining any amendments at all.
I don't think that's what he
Well,
said.
so-
I think he's talking about no substantive changes.
Yeah, well,
Right, a Scrivener's error we'd want to correct, but if someone now
Right.
says, I want to include this property in a zoning district,
oh, I
well,
agree,
Right,
agree,
right.
agree.
Not the
yeah,
scope at all. Any amendments made on the floor have to be in writing, though.
Correct.
So how much of the writing do they have to provide?
the whole
Is it
change.
all 150 pages?
No,
No, the section.
just the section, yeah. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
Just like full sentence or just this one word within
so
this
E4B,
clause?
and
So-
they want to add an E4C, then
Yeah.
they just go and
So just enough to make it
E4C,
obvious.
and there's the language, yeah.
Okay. Never had to do that before, so I know that's
Well,
one
let's
more
hope. Let's hope we don't have to.
knock on wood. All right, guys, I think we have beat this horse pretty well. Final call.
So, page 11-15, we have just a typo, that's all,
So moved.
So glad you guys have a sense of humor, honestly.
And I just want to point out, Kat, I think you've done an outstanding job of following this, keeping it organized, keeping everybody on the same page, tracking all these changes, and, excellent job. Thank you.
You're the one that has to do the hard work, so thank you.
Did a great job, Kat. Did a great job.
Thanks.
Agreed.
All right, guys,
Yep,
let's get out of
loaded.
here.
Have a good night.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Thank you all.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Motion to adjourn. Goodbye.
So moved.